Mother is a psychological horror film directed by Darren Aronofsky and stars Jennifer Lawrence, Javier Bardem, Ed Harris, and Michelle Pfeiffer. Shit. This was interesting. Me and Shaun just saw this movie and it had us talking immediately after the movie finished. If you're familiar with the films by Darren Aronofsky, this film is pretty messed up in some places, but this film not only makes you think, but it also raises questions that leave it up to the audience to figure out. First thing we are going to talk about is the characters. What did you think of them?
Yeah, I thought they were all really interesting. They was sort of, they're a little bizarre, and you weren't quite sure what part they were playing in the film, but they're all, I think all the actors did a really good job. But it's a film where I have to think a bit more about what they did and who they were, I suppose.
Yeah, for me, everyone did their job fine. Everyone gave great performances. Specifically Javier Bardem, who I thought, for me, stood out the most.
Yeah, I felt with Jennifer Lawrence, it was refreshing to see her do something a bit different. Getting back to like movies like Winter's Bone and stuff before she became this big it girl, big Hollywood girl.
Yeah, like films like Hunger Games and X-Men.
Those two movies sort of propelled her into stardom, but I think that smaller films are more interesting, especially with this film. She has much range. She can do a variety of things and she gets put through her paces, and I think she does a really good job of that.
To clear something up, this is a very confusing movie. If you're going into this film expecting a straight out horror film, you're not going to get that. If you're that person who saw the trailer and was like, oh, I'm definitely going to see this, and you were expecting a full out horror film, this film really isn't that scary. It does have some very holy shit moments, but it's more like a drama mystery film where, like I said, it leaves us questions for us to answer, and the film leaves it up to us to interpret what it means.
Even though it's not a horror film, like you were saying, it still has those horror elements in it. There are some sort of scares in it, I guess, of sorts, and there's this feeling of unsettlingness throughout the whole film, like you're just expecting something to happen, and it escalates to some crazy stuff towards the end, which it sort of sets up for in a way.
Something I noticed was this film had some very religious undertones to it. Throughout the film, there are a lot of biblical references throughout the movie, which might confuse a few people when you go see this film because you won't think this film is very religious at all, but it does have elements of religion in the film.
Yeah, there's elements of creation, there's elements of, you know, sacrifice and stuff like that, so I think there's a lot of it in there, but I guess it's up to people's interpretation of what they think. That's just what we gathered from it, that's all.
The film made me feel a lot during it. Sometimes I was gripped by the film and sometimes I was uncomfortable watching it. Especially the last half hour of the film, which is the most uncomfortable thing I've ever seen on film. And this is a film that is not for the faint of heart. Like I said, this isn't a full-out horror film, but there's some pretty messed up stuff in this film, and it will definitely shock you.
My feeling was that I just tried to let it wash over me as I was watching it. Try not to work, at the beginning I tried to work it out, but after a while I just let it sort of unfold and I just went with it. Like you were saying, that it did become quite full on towards the last half hour. There's a lot of shocking elements and moments in it that you don't expect. The film does set up for stuff to transpire. Being Darren Aronofsky, his films tend to, towards the end, tend to take a certain turn and go a certain way. And sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad, but either way it's always sort of shocking, so you should be prepared for that sort of thing going in.
Before I get into what I didn't like, I very much liked this movie. There was only a few things about it that really held it back for me. First problem I had with the movie was this film felt very claustrophobic because the entire movie, we are following Jennifer Lawrence's character. It kind of felt like we were chained to her because we were following her from behind. We were seeing her expressions. We were very much close to Jennifer Lawrence throughout the entire movie. It was fine, but I kind of got tired after a while following Jennifer Lawrence's character around and being stuck to her the entire time. And another problem I had was there was quite a lot of this in the movie where there was a lot of close-up shots of just this, which kind of did get really annoying. I'm not against close-up shots, but there was a shit ton in this movie and it got really irritating.
I agree, it did feel very claustrophobic. We actually never left the house. Everything that transpired was within the house. And if anything happened outside, we watched it from within the house. And I guess that may have been his point with the claustrophobic element, is just to really put you in there, and she's a representation of the world and we're watching it through her. I think was sort of what they were going for. But yeah, after a while it does, get sick of looking at all the walls and the different rooms and her going upstairs and downstairs and in the bathroom and
the basement as well.
And the basement, cooking. It's just sort of repetitive, but I guess there was a point to it. And yeah, it was just, sort of really just putting you within that space and allowing you to experience that. I guess as she does, as the character does through the film. It is a film that you sort of just got to go with to begin with, and it's a film that I think really makes you think throughout it. And once you finish watching the movie, you're sort of left with this feeling of not knowing exactly what happened and trying to interpret what you've seen and just let it, try and work out what the meaning was behind it. And it's that type of film. It's like those films that really make you think afterwards, and you're left with this thing weeks and months sometimes after you finish watching it, trying to work out exactly what they were saying, where they were going with it, why they did what they did. And this is definitely one of those, and it's a film I'll probably pick up and watch a few times to really grasp what's really happening in it.
Something this film reminded me of was this film very much felt like Mulholland Drive, because Mulholland Drive left many questions in the film for us to answer. But unlike Mulholland Drive, where it constantly left you confused, where you thought you knew what was going on, but then it pulled a swerve, here with Mother, the film still left questions, but it was still kind of straightforward, and you could still kind of figure it out. And once everyone figures what the secret is to this film, it kind of ruins its appeal. But I've got to be honest, this film still makes me think long after I've seen it. Overall, this is a film that will not be for everyone. The only people I can recommend this film to is die-hard Darren Aronofsky fans, or people who want to be challenged by film and figure stuff out. If you're looking for a straight-up horror film, yeah, this is not for you. But yeah, me and Shaun, we really loved this movie. And like we said, it made us think. It made us question what we were watching. It had some pretty messed up stuff in it. Although I do think maybe with the messed up stuff, it took it a little bit too far, but that's Darren Aronofsky for you. Me and Shaun are still interpreting what the film's meaning was, so our score may not be solid because we're still thinking about the film, but we're definitely set on the score, and we're going to give Mother a 9 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you see, be sure to like my Facebook page, follow me on Twitter, and subscribe to my channel below. As always, I'm NETX5, and this has been Shaun. Thank you for watching.